Hey everybody, Mark Ahrensberg here with The Pure Now Show. This is episode number 4. My guest on the show today is Mr. Philip Rang, Director of Photography. Philip hails from Australia. He's been here in Southeast Asia for a few years and as of late made some very beautiful TVCs shot in the picturesque town of Hoi An. But he can tell you all about that. Here we go. Philip Rang. Great to see you. Thanks so much for being on the Pure Now Show.
Hey Mark, thanks for having me. Okay.
First of all, you're a DP and director. You've worked internationally. You've spent a lot of time living in Paris.
That's correct.
You've been in Asia for quite some time. And you may shortly be leaving us to go back to Australia.
I'm going back to Australia in exactly 15 days from today.
Well, I'm glad that we met when we did and we're able to do this. I want to know, obviously, more about you and your career, your professional path, your journey. And I know that part of your passion is photography. You had your own studio.
That's correct,
in Paris. And how did this all begin? Growing up in Australia, what was the experience or event that happened that began to guide you down this path and inspired you enough to go in this creative direction?
It's probably because I've been suffering from dyslexia. And I've always been a very bad student, very bad at reading, very bad at writing, even though I really pursued it and pushed it and tried to improve. But I still get simple things like a C and an S mixed up, and it can mean the world of difference of how people might perceive you. For example, I had this interview with this gentleman and he pulled me up on it. He said, look, you know, you're not ASC, American Society of Cinematography, you're ACS, Australian Cinematographer Society. I'm still doing it. And it was a simple thing. It was in front of me, and I didn't see it. I didn't recognize it. But so that's how I found it more simple to express myself through images and photography. Why film? I thought back about that, and my grandparents in Australia came from Canberra, very, very modest. My grandmother was one of 13 children, and we'd sometimes go on holidays, not in caravans, but in tents. And my grandfather had a Super 8 camera, and we'd sit around, and literally it was a campfire or a fire in a 44-gallon drum, and we'd go into the tent. I must have been 4 or 5 or 6, and we were watching the Super 8 films of my grandmother and her 11 sisters. One had died, and they liked to drink in Australia, and they were dancing on tables with saucepans on their heads, and that was where I think I got the first bite of wanting to work in films. And I did photography at school, black and white photography. I had my own little darkroom, mostly sports photography. I was involved in sports, in rugby and basketball, and I started taking photographs of football matches, or what we call in Australia rugby league, and I ended up getting some of my photos published at a very young age. At 15, I first had my photos published, and I can remember a really funny incident. I wanted to photograph the tennis, and I grew up and lived in Sydney, and just before the Australian Open, they'd have the New South Wales Open, or the Sydney Open, and at the time it was on grass court. So I'd get a business card printed off. It would just have Philip Rang, photographer, and I'd write a letter with a typewriter because we didn't have computers in those days, and I'd send it off to the Tennis Association, who was organising the competition, and I asked for an accreditation, and there I was, as a 15-year-old or a 16-year-old, taking photographs at these international events. And I remember, I don't know whether you remember a tennis player, what was his name? Rod Turner? Anyway, I had all these massive tennis stars right in front of me, and there I was on centre court with my little camera taking black and white stills. It was a huge thrill. So I was automatically bitten by the bug of taking photos, and you only get good at taking photos by taking photos. You just got to keep on doing it and learning from your mistakes, and you soon find out how to use the camera technically and how to use it fast and what you can do and what you can't do just by trial and error. And obviously your eye becomes more honed in as you keep on doing it. So yeah, that's how I started very young, and I continued, and I travelled straight after school. I went all around the world. First of all, I had a scholarship in Norway. I lived a year in Norway, and as that year was coming to an end, there was a counsellor who came to our school, and he was from Camp America. And the deal was with Camp America, they would pay for your ticket to America and give you a job in a summer camp in America. You'd know this, that, you know, in the summer all kids have a massive break of 1 month or 2 months, and this was in a camp in the Catskills, upstate New York. And it was a performing arts camp, and it would have been early 90s. And it was just like the period when Fame and dance and flash dance had come out. And we're at a performing arts camp. It was massive. There was like 1,000 kids and 100 counsellors for 1,000 children. And it was all about performing arts. It was all about dance, theatre, and then they had sailing and other recreational activities. And the age of the children was from 7 to 15, 16. And I was in charge of a houseload of 10-year-old kids. So I was the photographic counsellor, and I just had film stock and black and white negatives and colour negatives, and I'd teach lessons during the day, and I'd be shooting 3 or 4 rolls of film a day. You know, that's like 120 frames of 200 frames, 36 exposures, times by 4, so 150 frames of photos every day, and processing them and doing proof sheets and making my selections, and at the same time teaching children. Did that in America and stayed in America for 3 years, came back to Australia and applied for the Australian Film School. And the Australian Film School at the time, it was called the Australian Film and Television School. And at the time, it was run by the government. I'm pretty sure it still is run by the government, but you entered the school on a scholarship basis, and they actually gave you a stipend. You're actually getting paid to go to school, film school. So there would have been, 300-400 applicants, and then they had a 3-day interview with 24 to take 12. And I got to the interview stage of 24. I didn't get in, I wasn't in the selected 12. But I wasn't too worried, because at the time in Australia, in the film industry, I always wanted to get into film, because working as a photographer, you're very much alone. You're very much by yourself. And the idea of working in a team with other people is a lot more exciting and fun, and is more social. So I didn't get into the film school, but in Australia at the time there was a tax incentive, which meant that virtually all the money that you would invest in the film, you'd get it back in a tax rebate. So it took me 2 days, and I had 2 job offers to work on a film as a trainee with no experience, by knowing nobody, just by making a few phone calls and knocking on doors and going to see people. So I started on a film called Breaking Loose, a B-grade film. But I worked initially in the art department. I said, yeah, I'll come and work in the art department, but you've got to take me on as a camera trainee. So towards the end of the film, there was a location shoot. I did the sets. The crew came, and I was in the camera department. I was a trainee. I was doing the clapperboard in front of the face, and I was sent to the truck, the camera truck, by the focus puller. said, go get me a 6x6 mat. I go, yeah? What's a 6x6 mat? 85 mil. I go, 85 mil, 6x6 mat. So I'd run back to the camera truck, not knowing what to get, and I'd just bring out as many things as I possibly could. And that's how I learned how to work in the camera department. And I worked myself up and went away to London after doing several shows. I was taken on by a focus puller as his second assistant, and we'd done a few shows for the English in Australia. And within a month of joining the film industry, I went out to the desert twice to film in a place called Cooper Pedy, which is a mining town, but it's the resemblance of a Mad Max, and it was very popular, and we went out there twice in the first month of me joining the film industry. So that's how I got started.
Do you feel that maybe this move into a visual referenced creative life saved you from potentially having a lot of difficulty and not being able to maybe even function well?
I still deal with it every day, but you know, you become resourceful. You know, lucky with computers now we have spell check, and that's sort of taken care of. Yeah, it saved me. I don't know, it seemed more of the logical thing to do. Working in a visual medium, the logical path I should have taken, and I did, and I have.
Yeah. What was the opportunity that presented itself that really kicked your career into gear? What was the one job or opportunity again that you received that changed things for you?
Well, it was that film, The Message from Fallujah, to be quite honest with you. I was very lucky in being able to do that film. I was asked to do it by the producer, and then the director said that was a great idea. And the producer seemed to have liked my work. I'd come from Paris at the time, and so the work that I was doing in Paris was not very commercial, but a lot more artistically inclined, because that's the way the French society actually works, is you become cultivated in France visually. In America, in Australia, in the UK, just to give you an example, at the end of the news, the daily news at 7 o'clock or 6:30 or 8 o'clock or whatever, there's always a segment in Australia or the UK or America about sport for about 10 minutes. Sport's so important in all of these countries. But in France, it's 10 minutes about art collection that's being released, fashion, the latest film that's being released. Every day it's something different. It could be a theatre piece has just been released. So in France, growing or learning or living in France for 20 years, you can't but help become cultivated artistically and culturally, because it's thrown at you every day. I mean, that's only if you watch the news, but you go out on the street and you'll have film posters, you'll have music posters. The culture is extremely important for the French, and you can't help but become cultivated and develop your sense of taste, of good taste, whatever that might be. But
was that experience, that 20 years there, did that help formulate your aesthetic, and did that play a role in how you would present your work in the future?
Very much so, very much so. And I can look at work at the moment and I go, that's rubbish. That's just rubbish.
Yeah.
Only because I've been privileged to see some of the best work, which has been coming out of France, without sounding too elitist or snobby. Yeah, or snobby. But no, there's a you know, of course some of the work in France can be really quite pretentious as well. But there's a lot of very good work that comes out of France, because if it's not good, it really gets, you know, trashed.
Berated, yes.
Yeah.
Why did you leave Paris?
My father was French, And so I went to France to meet him initially and to be with my French family. I have an uncle and I did have a grandmother there. And, you know, I grew up in Australia knowing that I was half French. I wanted to know all about the French culture. And I ended up having 3 children there, and I ended up separating from the mother of my children. And so I left France in about 2002. And I was in Australia until 2007, so I spent 5 years in Australia, and I couldn't bear the thought of my children growing up without me. Of course, I'd be making trips every summer to see my children, but a summertime with your children is not a lifetime, so I moved back to France to be closer to my children. And then when my children were old enough, you asked me why did I leave France. I'd been traveling in Asia working. In particular, this was in Indonesia. I'd just come back from a 3-week shoot in Indonesia, and I'm sitting in my apartment watching, I don't know, some film on TV. It must have been about midnight. I started getting all these phone calls. You know, first of all, it was my children. Papa, you okay? You okay? You okay? And it was in November 2015 when there were these simultaneous attacks on the streets where people were being killed randomly. And it's like, wow, do I really need to be in a place where you can be out in a restaurant and be gunned down by a machine gun? It was a Friday night and people were just getting killed. It's like, I'm out of here. I've got, besides my children, I don't have an attachment here, and I don't need to be around all of this. And the guy that I'd been working with in Indonesia was an Italian guy, and he said, Vietnam is extremely busy. It's a good place to go for work. And I'd been coming to and from Vietnam since 2004. So I came to Vietnam on spec, packed my bag, made a few phone calls and said I'm on my way. And I started to work prolifically in Vietnam as from the end of 2015. Yeah, and it's been a pretty good trip. So that's why I left France, because people were getting killed and my children were just about to finish school. Yeah. And I thought, well, it's time to head towards Australia, and Vietnam was halfway on the way home to Australia, and so I'm on my way back to Australia in 15 days' time.
I'm sure there were projects that were not ideal. Give me an example of maybe a project that you worked on that, although it may have been nightmarish at times, but you learned some things from it.
They're not very artistically challenging or interesting, and you do them because you can and you know how to do them. And then we get asked to do that work for 24 hours without a break and without extra money. And it's like the only country in the world where people think it's acceptable to work for 24 hours making films. And what have I learned from that is to say, no, I'm not interested. You just, yeah, you know, it's always good to practice your craft. It's always good to be doing what you love to do, but it comes to a point where it becomes a chore and it's not interesting, and you become burnt out and you go, I'm not doing my best work. I'm not creating anything that's really outstanding or exceptional. I think other people can do this. Yeah. So yeah. So what I've learned from that is just say, no, it's okay.
Yeah. So on that note, you're looking back at your younger self as a creative person. Now that you have learned certain things, learned lessons, and can avoid certain pitfalls, how would you address that? How would you counsel yourself or mentor yourself now that you have the knowledge that you have?
Well, I the way I'd counsel myself, which I also counsel my children. I have one daughter who is an artist, and she wants to be not a fashion designer, but she wants to make costumes for the theatre. And so I tell her, look, if you want to be good at what you do as an artist, you have to be the best of the best.